Hello, my most amazing and awesome artists. Today we're going to be going back to our poems. Last week we did popcorn and poetry, where you got to pop around the room reading different poems and choose one that you would like to illustrate. These poems were written by students at Seabreeze High School, and we are collaborating, meaning working together with these students, to create a book of children's poems. Now the poems are the ones with a title and the student's name on the front. On the back of that paper is where that student had a biography, an author biography about them, just like Peter Reynolds does in his book at the back. So a lot of the times at the back of a book there will be a little biography. That means it's showing and telling you a little bit about the author, the person that wrote the story. So this is the title of the poem, this is the author's name, and on the back is where the author's biography is. So today you're not writing or drawing about the author's biography. You're drawing a picture to go with the poem. So that's the side that doesn't have the picture. And that's because you're creating the picture that goes with that poem. So do this by underlining some of the key words. So if my title is spring, that of course is going to be a key word. On my poem illustration interview sheet, I'm going to fill out my name, my poem's title, which I can find at the top, and then the poem's author. That's the Seabreeze student's name. Now, think of this worksheet as an interview. I am interviewing you to get the job of being a real illustrator, because you are not only going to be in the art show, your Seabreeze student is not only just going to see your artwork, but it's also going to go into a book of these poems. So it's super cool and something that people will keep forever, so you need to make sure to do your best work. If you can fill out this form, then you just might get that job of being a real illustrator. In that frame on the left, I ask you to draw your main character of your story. Now, a main character is usually the main person in a book or a story or a poem. But if you don't have a person in your poem, then your main subject could be what your poem is about. So my poem's about spring, so in that top box, I drew things that came to mind when I thought about spring. I drew a bunny, a flower, a sun. If your poem was about something that's not alive, like pancakes, you could draw eyes on a stack of pancakes and make them come alive, draw a mouth on them, draw them talking. You can animate or make things come to life that don't really talk in real life. It's totally up to you. Now, in that next box there on the right, you'll see I ask you to write what you think your poem is about. It says, hint, use keywords that you underlined in the text to decode it. Some meanings of poems might be hidden. So today, if you're having trouble decoding your poem, please pair up with a friend and see if they think the same thing. At the end of class, we'll see if we have time, if we can share with others what we thought our poem was about, and if others have any suggestions or ideas for us. After you write a little bit about your poem and try to find the meaning of it using those key words, then you're going to draw your bigger picture at the bottom. In that bottom large frame, that is asking you to illustrate the entire poem. You need to come up with one picture that really explains or represents that poem. You have one opportunity and one large paper, or at least you will when we get on to the next step of this if your interview is accepted and you are hired for the job of illustrator. You have one chance to draw a picture to go with the poem that really explains what it's about. You have one picture. You can use a picture to tell 1,000 words. Have you ever heard that phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words? Well, it's true, because you can say so much with just a drawing. You just need to really make sure that you're drawing all of the things that you think represent that poem. In my case, my poem was about the seasons changing from winter to spring to summer. The author clearly really enjoys the time of spring and thinks that you should too. So he talks about spring being full of life, that you can play with your friends, you could fly a kite, you can enjoy that spring day before summer starts to come, and it says brighten your lens, so the weather starts to get warmer. So I'm drawing all warm weather things like some flowers blooming. Some of those flowers might even have silly faces. Maybe they're coming to life. Maybe I'll draw a sun that's alive with sunglasses on, since it said something about the brighten my lens, like sunglasses lenses. I draw a rainbow because spring often brings spring showers, so I have a cloud raining to water the plants. And then I have a boy that's flying a kite. You can draw tons of things in your poem. It shouldn't just be one little thing in your picture. You need to fill up that entire box with a picture that tells a story. The viewer, or in this case, me or your friends, but in the future it will be Seabury students and other people that read the book, needs to be able to look at your picture and be able to tell what's going on. They shouldn't need to read the poem to understand what your picture is about. They should be able to look at the picture and understand it just by looking at that picture. It's like reading it. You know how when you're little, you just look at the pictures in a book because you can't read yet? Well, you need to do the same thing. Say if a really little kid was reading the book and they can't read the poem, they want to be able to look at your picture and understand what that story is about. So that is your job as the illustrator today. If you change your idea or change your main character like I'm changing right now, I decided to put a boy flying a kite in there. So I created a main character for my story, even though there wasn't a boy flying the kite in the poem. It was just implied or suggested that maybe there was somebody flying a kite, even though it didn't say that there was a boy in the poem. I made one up anyway. You can add additions to what you think would happen in that poem if you have a good idea. Please make sure you use pencil first, and then you can outline with Sharpie, preferably a skinny Sharpie because this paper is small and thin. Make sure that you use pencil first though, because you only get one, and just in case you need to erase or change any of your ideas as you're thinking about them, it's a good idea to always start with pencil and then outline with Sharpie. These worksheets or interviews will be displayed at the art show along with your picture, so please make sure that you end up doing your best work, even though it's just our planning sheet. So we always plan before we start a big picture because it's hard to just jump into a big giant piece of paper without planning first. So this worksheet will give you a good idea of what we're going to start next week when you get all of the fun materials to start illustrating with, like a real illustrator. Now, if you finish your ideas early and you've already drawn out your main character or main subject, you filled out your name, the poem's name, your poem author's name, you've written what you thought the poem was about, you're sure about the poem that you have, that it's yours and that you want to illustrate it, and then you've drawn your big illustration at the bottom, then you'll have colored pencils that you can color in your drawing with if you finish early. You can color the entire worksheet and make it look nice. It's totally up to you. Now, colored pencils do break easily, so you can sharpen them with a sharpener in your bin if it so happens to break on you. You can even color the picture frame. You could color the words at the top in the pictures. Totally up to you. I can't wait to see what you create. All right, illustrators, let's start our job interviews and see if you are up for the challenge of becoming a real illustrator that's going to get published in a book. All right, let's get planning. And always, these go in your table folder when you're done, and make sure you clean up all your supplies and area.